Hello and welcome back to Howard's Cave of Wonder. I'm Chris, aka Howard Blues, and a little bit of a purple setup going on. Let me tell you, it's a little bit different tonight. Normally, this is a night I record the podcast that I do with my good buddy Mark Kidder, Beer Blues NBS, but I got down here to the cave a little bit early. So that I could actually start a new video, and for this channel, because I did a video for this channel, at least I started a video for this channel, and it didn't go well. Why didn't it go well? I'm not going to blame my wife, but my lovely wife, Lefty, was down here wrapping some Christmas gifts over on my side table. And I think her being here just threw off my natural speaking groove, in part, not to blame her, but I think it was, I didn't know how much she wanted to be in the video. She knew I was recording a video at the same time. And so I didn't know how much I should throw to her, how much she wanted to be involved. I didn't really have a chance to talk to her beforehand about it. And so I think it just put me on edge. So, needless to say, I recorded a whole hour-long video, and it just was kind of okay. It was a lot of silence. It was a lot of not really knowing what to do. So, to me, it would have been terribly unwatchable with just a lot of me speeding it up for time-lapse sake, and I didn't think it would be all that great. So I decided I would do it again. But the problem was, the project I worked on was the Red Gobbo. And I made some progress on the Red Gobbos, and I don't want to lose it. So to just showcase kind of what we have done with the Red Gobbo. So we'll start with the Red Gobbo surprise. So last time I had done the skin, this time I base coated the snow. I also did some dry brushing of some metal, and with the dry brushing of the metal, I used a technique that I like to use where I use a dark gray first, and then I dry brush the shiny instead of going black to that. It just adds a little color to it. It's a tip I've seen in some other videos, and I liked it. So kind of did that. Same with our Grot riding a squig for Grotmas. Really just, again, the snow on the base and the eyes, at least kind of marking those eyes, kind of getting those ready. And that was really about it. Not as much metal on this particular figure. And then on the Abominable, so on the snowman head, again, just taking and basically the snow, the candy cane, the skull. Now the skull, I'm planning to do more of a bronze brass color, but I started this just to kind of boost the metallosity, as one Dallas Kemp would say. And then kind of the last one, the Abominable Red Gobbo. Again, same things. The metal, I didn't get to the snow on this, so. But got the face of the clock, got the lenses on his goggles set. So that was the progress I made on that. So that's where I got. And that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but again, this is more of a hobby vlog. And so I'm kind of trying to show this as much as I can in real time instead of what a lot of YouTubers do, which is fine. They try to get a project done every week, which is good. It's probably a better practice than what I'm doing. But because they try to do that, they really kind of bang those things out. This is me and more of my real life and what I do with the hobby and get stuff done. So that's the difference. And you'll get to kind of see, we'll make some more progress on it. But this is not the only hobbying I have done. I woke up Christmas morning actually. My son got up at 4:30, and by the time I got him back to bed, it was pretty much 5. And I just knew I wasn't going to get back to sleep. My alarm usually goes off at 6:30, so I'm like, I got an extra hour and a half to my day. What am I going to do? I came down here and I painted, because that's what you do. And so I made some progress on 2 models. First is this guy. This is the Reaper Miniatures Goblin Santa Claus. And I already kind of had the suit done from a previous night. I did some highlights on the skin, got his eyes ready, and I started the white on there. So he's looking good. And then also working on a Christmas figure, we have this guy. It's one of the Reaper Christmas dragons. This one holding a stocking. So great figure. And pretty close to done. I've got his skin highlighted up. I got some texture painted in on his wings. I just really need to do these back scales. I want to put a little more texture and such on that. I got his eyes started, just need to do pupils. There's some work on stuff in the stocking, probably a little shade here and there, and he'll be done. So 2 just very, very nicely done Christmas miniatures, nearly coming to a close. So glad to be getting some of this stuff done. That's great. The other Christmas figure that I've been working on is this gingerbread knight, and he's not as far along. Base coat of the cookie, which is hard to see because it's a real dark brown, and then just because I had some extra white left over, I just hit the candy cane and the peppermint on his shoulder just to make progress. So some simple things as we roll on into that. Yes, I know these are Christmas figures, and technically this is the week of Christmas. It's the Friday after Christmas when I'm recording this. I do have a little bit of a buffer, so that's kind of why this is coming out so late, which I know is not timely, but hobby happens when hobby happens. I will share, I did get some gaming related, some hobby related stuff for Christmas. I got a new board game to add to the collection, one that's been on my list for a while. It is, and neither camera is really going to help me out with this, the Quacks of Quiddlingburg. It's a push your luck game. I wish I could tell you more. I haven't even opened it to read the rules, and it's been on my list for a long time. I had watched a review of how it was played and some things. I was like, oh, that looks like a fun game to play, and put it on my list. I finally got that. So, and I also got with it, which is funny because I opened it first. Sorry, desk is a little bit of a mess. I got the expansion for it. So, the Alchemists. Again, trying to do this without knocking over models. There you go. So, the Alchemists. So, add some stuff to it. But the best thing I got from my family is a dice tray. Holds up, but it says "Best Dad Ever," and I have a hero. I call him Dad. So that was very touching to receive. Not the only games though that were purchased for this household. My kids made out with a bevy of children's game classics, everything from Hungry Hungry Hippos to Hi Ho Cherry Ho. My son got the Buzz Lightyear version of Operation, and my daughter ended up with a game from Haba Games called Hedgehog Haberdash. My son also got a Mario game. It doesn't really seem to have a name. It's one of these. It's a pipe, and you twist Mario down, push him down. You push these sticks in, and eventually, he just surprisingly pops up. It's all right. You know, me and him played it a couple times. It was fine. It's fine. Hungry Hungry Hippos has been the big hit. Although they haven't played Hi Ho Cherry Ho yet, and I haven't played it with the Hedgehog Haberdash, but my wife was playing it with the kids when I came home from work today. So new games throughout the Blues household. Not the only thing to come in. I have a box here, and this is from Reaper Miniatures. And I believe that this is my missing Bones 6 stuff. We got a whole slew of stuff. It's weirdly packaged. But we got all of the missing bases from the base or the core set. So more bases to go into my collection. That could never get old. And then we got in here all of the missing pieces. So it's going to be hard to see, but as you can see here, we have, it looks like a whole new Scorpion that just needs some pieces put together. A body and a head for my one Salamander that didn't get. And I see the Trident. Now, one thing that was interesting, if you watch the Bones videos, you know that I have this Filth Beast, and to me, this looks like a peg right on the bottom of the eye stalk. What looks to be a peg is for the tendrils. They tell me that those are the tendrils. If that's the tendrils, I mean, especially when you look at like all of the details on kind of these suckers up here where they did the points and all of that, that just really does feel like that's a peg. I'm not going to worry about it because I managed to save from one of their other miniatures. It's a support piece, but it's all these little kind of tendril bits hanging down. It's really kind of small and hard to show, but I'm hoping to just use some of those and kind of glue onto that thing and just make it something more interesting than that peg. So there's that. So I have some miniature stuff to work on to assemble in the near future. So have an interesting holiday. How was your holidays? Did you get hobby stuff? I hope you did. If you did, tell us down in the comments. Be glad to know and just to hear what other people got and what they were excited for that they got. But we should do some painting because these projects do not complete themselves. Where to start? The eternal question that plagues all of us hobby people. Where to start? And that really is a good question. I know I want to work on the gobos because I want to continue making progress there. But what? I didn't have a plan when I came down here. I am kind of winging it. And when I find myself in this situation where I don't know, I don't have a plan, this is when we start kind of making stuff up. And that's scary. There's a part of me that feels like I should start with a brown. Actually, I think I know what I'm going to start with. I'm grabbing a little bit of Reaper aged bone. The reason for this, and I talked about it in that section of video that I made but didn't go. One of the reasons I put the snow base down, even though I'm going to paint and I'm probably going to get stuff on it, it's a theory that I have when it comes to painting rock, actually. Rock, if you ever look at rock is a lot of colors. So many times we get sucked into just painting gray and gray rocks. I'm guilty of this too. as I can maybe show. Actually, I don't have a great example right here on my desk. So what I find is that when I paint a model or a miniature, I will oftentimes put a base coat down on the base before I even really start a lot of the other stuff. I know I've already started other things with this, but I like starting with that. So that if I get paint elsewhere on that base, I'm just layering in colors that I can then go back in and touch up, and because of that, make it far more interesting. This isn't probably going to show up real well because this is still a little dark and still needs a little help. But this is a project that I've been working on, a little golem. And if you could really look at my rock, you'd see that there's a lot of colors in it. This little dwarf butcher, you can see my rock has browns and greens and probably a little bit of reds and oranges here and there. Rock is surprisingly colorful, but too often we just tend to go with, here's gray. We do our dark gray, we do our mid gray, we do our highlight, probably as a dry brush, maybe a bit of wash here and there, and it's rock. That's really boring. So I like putting down my base coat on my ground, knowing that I'm going to suck in some other colors, mistakes, brush things, and I can easily correct that. So I have this bone gray, because while I did lay down, rather than bone gray, this aged bone, while I did do white on these other ones, that was a bit of a mistake because I really can't highlight up from that. It really was a mistake. You should never really just use white. So I actually want to use this because this is a white color that has a nice bit of brown tone to it. It actually looks more brownish than there. And I know I have some different lighting going on and such, so this may not read quite as well, but it is a nice color. And so slapping this down right now, again, will allow me to pick up other colors. It'll add a nice dirty color to everything. And again, it'll allow me to pick up some colors. Like right in here where I'm painting, it's going to be hard to see. There's a little ball ornament. Great. Perfect. If I get a little bit of green or red from that, whatever color I decide to paint it onto the ground, that's okay. It's probably just a little bit of a reflection. It all works out. So just kind of slopping this on. And being that it's brown, it just adds to, it's the gobbo. He's kind of dirty. He's not going to probably clean his boots off. So if I have a little brown in places from where he's been trudging around, that works. So just gonna take and work that in. That's my base coat. Those look like Christmas lights there. I'll have fun with those. So, this is probably the least I have hobbied during Christmas break. Usually, during Christmas break, I'm able to take some time off work. Kids go to bed. I get to do a little bit of sleep or a little bit of hobbying in the evening. This year has been a little different with everything going on. A lot of stuff in the personal life that it's really kind of one of those where you're just like, oof, how are we going to pull this off? And everything that we need to do for the holidays and gift wrapping and all of that. So not as much hobbying as I traditionally get. Now I accidentally hit a grenade that's in the ground back there. And this is where doing it in subassembly, I probably would have a little bit easier time. but we'll make up for it. We'll make up for it. We'll fix it. Ended up nailing it again a couple of times. It's usually also why it's good to like start on the lowest level, work my way up. And the good news is this will be a nice shadow color for when I do want to put on the actual white color. It'll give it a nice dark tone and that. And doing up here on the snowman itself, there's some spots where, you know, when I dry brushed the metal, I got a little carried away. Had a little overpaint, if you will. And so this gives me an opportunity to correct that overpaint and give it a coat. So this is fun. Not my first GW models I ever painted, although it's probably the most recent sculpt I've ever done of GW. I like their stuff. I know people are going to hate this comment, but it's a true comment. GW is expensive. And so I never really felt, especially because when I started this hobby, I was a poor teacher in the wilds of Montana. I didn't have money for no Warhammer. And so for me, I've just never had quite the funds to really explore GW's modern range. But the first GW stuff I ever painted was actually a series of orcs. I think they're second edition black orcs for fantasy. And I painted them. I got them. I found them. And I call them my trice painted orcs because I bought a bunch of models. When I decided I was going to try this whole painting thing, I got it. Okay, let's backtrack. How I got into the hobby with this. So I got into the hobby through a game. It was a game that I saw. Almost lost the model. Stick down, Gabo. Stick down. I bought a game in college called Heroscape. If you're not familiar with it, it just actually made a comeback. But it's a skirmish game, kind of heroes through history, and you draft a team much like building an army list, and then you battle. And we played a lot of it in college. I bought a set, and we played with everybody pretty frequently. I was pretty notorious for actually being relatively good at the game in our group. The problem was by the time that I got into Heroscape and had the money, Heroscape was kind of on its last legs. It was going away. And so to find all of the sets and expansions was difficult at that time. And so I wanted more. Okay, this is going to keep falling off the base. So as I tell this story, let me fix this. So I had this kind of quandary of what do I do? I want more Heroscape. I wanted to do more playing of it. I wanted more things to play. Well, one of the last expansions they did was Marvel Superheroes. Cool. I like Marvel. I like superheroes. I like the idea of the two battling. This was awesome. And I really got to looking for other things. And I realized, hey, I could make my own cards. In fact, one of my roommates at the time actually had the Doom board game. It was put out by Fantasy Flight because he was a big fan of Doom. And he actually made up some custom cards for the monsters of Doom so that he could play them in Heroscape. And so I was like, man, this could be great. I just need to find miniatures and I can add to my game. Kind of some homebrew stuff to play. That was the plan. And I started finding Dungeons and Dragons pre-built miniatures. Okay, those are cool. Different monsters and things. That was great. I found HeroClix miniatures. Those were really expensive because I didn't really same with the D&D ones because there was a collectible element to them. And I wasn't really collecting. I just wanted the variety. That was my thing. I don't care if this is the rare chase figure. I just want Gladiator Hulk from World War Hulk. Was that from World War Hulk? No, it was Planet Hulk. Yeah. Excuse me. It's late in my knowledge of that. So there was some of that where I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and touch up the snow on the head here just so that it hopefully stays the same. So I was looking at a lot of those and I picked up a whole bunch. So I actually have a pretty good collection of HeroClix figures and HaloClix and HorrorClix and a whole bunch of those. I only really played the game a couple of times in the clicks sort of battle system. In fact, I once entered a tournament with it, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, the thing was as I kept looking for cheap miniatures, I stumbled upon a little company called, you guessed it, Reaper Miniatures. And there was this kind of cool thing of like, well, cool, you can paint your own. Well, I don't know if I'm any good at that, but it could be something interesting to paint my own miniatures. Maybe there's something to this. And so I picked up a bunch, not a whole bunch, but I did just kind of look for and find fantasy miniatures and such that I liked. And then I began, I went to go paint them. And the thing was, I had heard about painting miniatures in podcasts. Excuse me. I'd heard about painting miniatures in podcasts. Like I was listening to the D6 generation, and they always talked about what they were painting. And, that was always kind of cool. And so I had heard a lot, and I knew some about the techniques of it. And I finally got the time and the space. I was like, okay, I'm going to paint some stuff. And I decided to start with these GW Black Orcs. Figured that they'd be okay. And I started painting them, and then quickly realized I didn't have the skills. I did not have the skills to paint these things and to paint them well. That was the truth of it. They were turning out pretty terrible, if I'm being honest, which I am. And so, getting frustrated with it, I decided I need to do something else. I need to just hone some basic skills. I didn't have some basic things down, and that was part of what was frustrating me. So I gave those a bath of simple green, stripped off the paint, let them sit in a container for a while, and went out and bought some dollar store army men. And I proceeded to paint these things up, kind of batch style, but trying different things, different techniques I heard about. I started venturing into the Reaper forums and looking at their work in progress posts and seeing what I could learn there. Watching a few YouTube tutorials on some things, just to kind of, learn. And then, I practiced on these army men. And then after I finished with the army men, I ended up gifting them to my nephew. And then went about painting other things. I inherited a collection of little toy plastic figures from my wife's grandpa. He'd find them on his daily walk, and he just kind of had a collection of them, and I painted them all up. Again, gave them to my nephew, who at the time thought it was cool. And just kind of got into that, and I then had these skills. I could go out and I could paint things. And I'm not saying by doing that, I became an ace painter and went off to win a golden demon or a crystal brush. That's not what happened. All I did was I leveled up my skills to a point where I felt like I could comfortably start painting things and be happy with the results. Were they perfect? Nah. They were better than when I had first started. I had clearly learned some things, and to me, it's still the best advice I give new painters. Some people say, don't use dollar store army men for training, because the lack of detail, you won't, you're just not going to learn as well as if you paint with something with a lot of detail. I get that mentality. I understand the thought there. Where I disagree with that mentality is if I start with something really complex, say like this gobbo on a squig, and it doesn't turn out right because I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling ridiculously stuck because I don't know how to do the things. I don't know how to mix my colors. I don't know how to properly apply a wash. I don't know how to dry brush. I might get frustrated and give up because I can't make the miniatures do the things I want it to do. And so my basic kind of take on this was, if I just practice dry brushing, I choose 5 or 6, and I just get a feel for, okay, how much paint do I need on my brush? What strokes work best? And then what can I do with the dry brush? Skill wise, what can I achieve? It builds up a confidence and at least a base, so that as I'm sitting here looking at a model, I now know, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to use this skill. I'm going to use this thing that I have learned, and I can apply it. That to me is why you got to practice, and why something like that works. I didn't care about the detail. I didn't care if they turned out well. I painted some of them in red. I painted some of them in yellow because I heard red and yellow were difficult colors, and I want to just wrap my head around that. Learning just those basic things can then boost your confidence to move forward, and it's a great way to start. It's a great way to learn. And you don't have to finish the models. That's the other thing. You don't have to. I recently was talking to a coworker of mine. I have a couple of coworkers who also are in the painting hobby. They're more on the gaming side. They paint their miniatures to play with them. I guess I could play with mine too, and do that they're just actual more war gamers, and that's fine. But in talking to him, he was talking to me. He's like, man, I just started. I don't know. He's like, I just started doing this. I haven't been doing it for all that long. I'm still learning a lot of things. He goes, I still haven't been able to figure out dry brushing. I said, here's my piece of advice. I said, go buy some dollar store army men. So just prime them. Don't worry about mold lines. Just prime them up, and then just practice on that. Just, paint them black and then try different levels of it. Sure, then you have a bunch of just plastic army men that have been dry brushed. It's okay. It's just a tool to learn. And he actually, his take on that was, I never really thought of doing it that way. It hadn't crossed his mind that was a good option. So he was, I don't know if he actually went out and did it, to be truthful. But it was something like it. I think it sparked an idea in him that maybe that was a good idea. Okay. Whew. I've been talking a lot, and I realized I didn't bring anything down to drink, so feeling a bit parched. It's okay. So that's drying. I feel better about that brown color on there. I think it'll work out as I now tease it back to white. But I got to do other things first. And I could do leather, but I believe his shoes are black. And I also I have two ways I do leather. I've done leather in the form where you build up from it. You start with a very dark brown, kind of like this black and brown, and then you kind of sponge on or dry brush on a lighter brown, and then using a sponge, you kind of dab on some orange colors with kind of a very light brown, like this ginger cookie color. You then take and you make little scratches and texture marks, and you come back in and you kind of wash it with a nice rich brown, like ink, and that works, and it makes a beautiful leather. But that's a great one to do if I was later in the process, or earlier in the process, I should say, because you're going to get spillage on everything. And I've kind of started some things, and so I don't know that I want to do that. I've also done speed paint leather. I have Army Painter's hardened leather, which you might remember this from one of my earlier videos, this orc mage. And I use that hardened leather on him, and it's great. And there I would, again, it's kind of that dark, you dry brush in a lighter color like a white, and then you use that speed paint, and again, it provides a nice texture to leather. Both look fine. I don't know that I have a ton of leather on here that I really want to do that on these. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start. I have a couple of these large Christmassy bags, which brown would be the right kind of color for. I also have the roof on this Gabos, and I think I want to hit it with a brown that I could use as a base. And I could go a couple ways with, and I'm debating. I have this wyvern leather that's kind of a brown with a nice reddish tone to it, but I also have this harvest brown, which is a much lighter brown, and I'm leaning towards that because I can shade that in different ways and make that work. So I think I'm going to go that route. Yeah, I think I'm going to go. So I'm doing some brown. Doing some brown. Oh, this is a well-loved brown. I can tell because, there it all comes out. That is way more than I need. Paint cam for the win. Put some water. I like this because, again, I really am caring about the roof tiles on there because, again, I think it's going to get hit with some other things. And cool if my roof tiles have texture because I have spillage and other things. So I want to start there. The bags and such, I think I can do some stuff with too. And I just put my hand in paint. Way to go, Howard. Way to look professional for the people. They're really going to question why you're doing this. For those who don't know, I rock the nickname, the living embodiment of Charlie Brown. This is why I am like the Charlie Brown of hobbying. Things don't go well for me, and you get to benefit from that. So with this brown, try and get it so you guys can see. With this brown, and especially going on to black, I am not looking for perfect coverage. In fact, it's going to, as it dries, there's still a little bit of transparency to this brown that I'm using. It's not perfectly opaque. It would probably, if I had wanted it to be perfect, I would do a second coat, is what I would do. But I'm not going to on this. I want that, while I want the brown to stick out, being that these are roof shingles, I want it to have that kind of organic look. I don't want it to be perfect. Again, I found in my, especially kind of in this later part of my painting career, I really like trying to paint on texture. Where in my earlier kind of painting hobby and such, I would focus more on letting the texture of that was already on the model dictate what texture and such I put on. And again, I talked about this, and again in the part that I cut, I have enjoyed in the last few years as I paint, trying to find ways to add texture to my paint job. I was inspired by a painter who paints a lot of Reaper miniatures. His name's Michael Proctor. He does a lot of their kind of showcase thing. And the thing that Michael Proctor does so well is he's really good at adding kind of texture to the models and such that he paints, just by how he paints. And I have found myself sold on it on a number of occasions. Just the beauty of his work and what he does. And so really being a fan of his work, I wanted to figure it out. And so I kind of spent a lot of time looking at his work, figuring out how'd you do this, Mr. Proctor? Trying to my best to emulate it. Not that I want to be the next Proctor. And I will say I have seen several of his miniatures that are, they're good. Good, but I sometimes think that he overdoes the texture. At least for my taste. Again, painting, like anything else, is subjective. And so everybody's going to have a different feel for what works, what doesn't work. And so where I really like his stuff and I really like his style, at times I feel a bit like he goes just a tiny bit overboard with it. It's fine. As I said, it's not to say he's not talented. It's again, it's a subjective thing. But trying to find how can I do what I view as the best of this kind of texture painting that he kind of does, but do it in my way that works for what I like and my sensibilities and my skill level. Because no matter how good others kind of think I do with this, I know my own skills and limits. So yeah, using this Harvest Brown just kind of on this bag, and I will again muck up the bag. And again, because this is a gobbo bag, right? This is a bag that is used in gobbo. I am going to try and add other things and textures and stains to it. And I don't need a perfectly brown coat of paint on this. I just need a base so that, again, I can work in some texture with it. And that's the goal, as I try to get some brown on. The fun trick of painting the underside of this bag. But again, it should, in theory, work. And it's also giving me time to think about leather. Because, again, not that there's a lot on it, but there is some. And I should probably consider that process early in this game, in this paint job. Okay. We got our bag. Looking good. Looking very good. Looking good. Looking fly. Now you might notice I didn't paint the bag on the Goblin Surprise that way. That's more just because I want to use a different color. I like this Harvest Brown on that, but like even the stick arms on my snowman here, I don't know that I want to go that brown with it. So I'm just doing one more kind of look to see if there is anything else that I really want to hit with this brown. I see I got a little white on my bell. Don't worry, I have an idea. That. So I think we're good. I also got a little white on my Gabbo's hand here. I see. Yeah. Luckily, I have not gone further with the skin. I had planned to, and then I luckily I tested it, my color on my Santa Gobbo first, and realized it wasn't quite right, and so I backed off before I did that highlight, just to think about it a little bit. Is that the right choice? Is that the right color? We'll see. I'm gonna do it on time. Yeah. Okay. Some good progress. I know it doesn't seem like much. But welcome to the world of painting, where stuff doesn't always go like you think, or as quickly as you think, and such. So, anything else that I want to kind of touch on? Because if I start another color, I'm not going to be able to get far with it, and such. So, yeah, I think this is a great stopping point, a good wrapping point. I know I didn't do a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot. And that's how painting tends to go. You do a little bit at a time. You just make slow progress, and that's okay. That's good stuff. A couple of things, just as at least one thing as a reminder. I still have this signboard. I'm still trying to find ideas for what to put on this. If you have a suggestion, let me know. Because I would like to get that one finished and off my desk as quickly as I can. So, gosh, I still have a lot of brown left, and I don't really want to. I have this. So this, I forgot to mention, I've kind of been jokingly painting a gallows for a while. Really, it's because one night on the podcast, I was opening miniatures and assembling them, because sometimes I hobby while I do the podcast. And I started this this gallows, and then I made a joke about gallows humor and ha 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 and all that. But I ended up priming it, and it's kind of just been, as I've had colors left over, I've been using it. And so I have a lot of this Harvest Brown left, so let's just slap that on, and we'll do that. So yeah, I bet you didn't expect Christmas models and a gallows. That's how it goes. So just slapping it on. You've heard of slap chop. This is slap coat. Oh, that was bad. That was a dad joke, if I ever told a dad joke. And I've told many a dad joke, because as a dad, all my jokes are dad jokes. So just coating this. I will probably wash this down to a to something a little bit more grimy and grungy, but starting off like this is, to me, a good start. So yeah, I sometimes like painting terrain just because I can quickly do it. I can quickly get it done and such. And not that it's interesting. It's not that I take less time with terrain or that I don't care about terrain. It's just, to me, it's the kind of thing that I don't have to worry about perfection with. The terrain in games is just, it's there to help set the scene, and so that's what I'm going for. It's set dressing. So as long as it fits the mood, but I don't necessarily want it to steal the show. At least that's my general take on it. Let's get some down in the cracks and crevices. And so in this case, yeah, I am just slapping it on. I don't care if I get it on the metal on this, because again, I'm going to do some different things with that. And if I repaint it, not a big deal. Again, adding a little brown will help with some rusty effects, things like that. Don't care if I get a little bit on my rope. Again, rope is not a perfect one texture. And this paint, as it dries, I know it seems like I'm just globbing it on. As it dries, it will darken and become a little bit more see-through. Isn't quite the right word, but it's not as opaque as you might think. So there, a quick bit of slap coat to end the show on. So, hey, wherever you can make progress, make progress. That's a great way to look at this hobby. Make progress where you can make progress. Always move the ball forward, and eventually you'll find that you get to the point where you're happy with stuff, and that's just how it is. And enjoy that process. Because if you're not enjoying it, you're doing it wrong. That's for sure. All right, enough sagely wisdom from the cave. I got to wrap this up so I can go do a different show. And actually, because we record 2 new episodes of the podcast, I got 2 more shows to do tonight. I'm a busy man on this Friday night, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for joining in, sitting in. I know different light scheme, maybe not the best on the paint cam and without the overhead lights, but it helps me be prepared for the next thing I'm doing. So hopefully all of your projects are going well. Hopefully you all had a great happy holidays and all of that. And yeah, I thank you for joining me. If you made it this far, you're a trooper. I appreciate you for putting in those watch hours. Hopefully you were able to do some hobbying of your own as you listened and maybe watched some of this. And with that, I'm Howard Blues, and can't wait to see you back down here in the cave next time. Night, everybody.